Get the F***K out of my kitchen. Story 1. Haha, I'm with you on that. My fiancée is a really fantastic cook, but she's so messy in the kitchen, and it literally causes me anxiety when I just watch her cook. I clean up as I cook, so by the time everything is in the oven or plated, I've already cleaned 90% of what needs to be done, and all that's left are pots, pans, and the dishes from the table. But after she cooks a meal, which is incredible 100% of the time, the kitchen looks like it got hit by a tornado. Story 2. My grandmother was a traditional wife, but my grandfather was the cook, the absolute best. You can still have a traditional wife and still be the one who cooks. Story 3. I hate to admit it, but my wife is actually a better cook. I mean, like 5-star restaurant good. I also had a stressful job with a lot of overtime, and it was awesome to have someone at home who could handle the important things. Story 4. I am a better cook, but I do not have the time and energy to do it all the time. Plus, my earning potential is pretty good, and hers is minimal. That said, our youngest is turning 14, and she just got her first job in 25 years. Story 5. Not sure why, to be honest. I sure as hell don't want all the responsibilities of a traditional husband. Much prefer being two individuals with complementary strengths and weaknesses, who also have physical intimacy. Story 6. My wife was a traditional wife for the first 5 years after our son was born. The bonus is she is the best cook I have ever known, totally the best thing for our kid. Now she is an executive for a global company making a good 6-figure income, and I stay at home and take care of the household. In fact, we just finished dinner I cooked. I can get down in the kitchen too. Story 7. You can do what I do. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and handles all traditional things except I traded cooking with her for grass cutting. She doesn't really cut the grass as we now hired a contractor for yard work, but it was still worth it. I cook every meal. Even if I'm not home, I have to figure it out beforehand or I meal prep and freeze things she and the kids can heat up. Even when we renovated the house, she had complete authority on decor and design for every part of the house except my kitchen. Story 8. I think it goes hand in hand with being a masculine man for most of the ones that want a traditional wife. Also, I would say a lot of them are just taught to want that by their parents, directly or indirectly, if not by society. Story 9. Yeah, no kidding, my wife makes a significant amount of money compared to me as well, so keep your silly housewife dreams to yourself, I say. My wife is busy making money, so don't put any funny ideas in her head. Story 10. I'd be happy to stay at home and cook for a partner, as long as each month a portion of money gets deposited into my own personal account to spend as I please. I've seen too many women get dumped in their 50s with nothing. So no, I'm not staying at home and giving up work without financial incentive to do so. And stay-at-home dads shouldn't either. My grandma was divorced in her late 40s. Grandpa ran off with his secretary. He liquidated the family business, and my grandmother got nothing, just half of the house, which wasn't a lot due to the mortgage. So no, I'm not dumb enough to be a traditional wife because I see what happens when a traditional husband takes off with a traditional mistress. Story 11. It's funny. When you treat your wife with respect and love, good things happen. Don't demand that she act like a traditional wife. Even go out of your way to tell her she doesn't have to. If you become a good provider and a good man and act like a traditional husband, you will probably get a traditional wife. A lot of guys complaining they want a traditional wife don't get one because traditional wives don't want a husband who wants a traditional wife. Mainly because the kind of guy who says they want a traditional wife really means they want a mom or house servant. It's a paradox. Story 12. I'm guessing a traditional wife means traditional? If you can afford it and both agree, it seems ideal. Best way to raise children, best way to manage a house, and lots of children and parent bonding. My wife had the option. She chose to work. But she says if she had a typical 9 to 5, she'd quit and be a housewife, wear house dresses, and cook all day. Sounds good to me. Story 13. My lady hates to cook. She can do it just fine, but it's one of those odd things that makes her irrationally angry. According to her, it just gets on her nerves. Give her a knife and ask her to chop something, she's happy. Let her set something on fire, she's happy. Ask her to sit a pot or something, and she hates it. One thing she really enjoys is cleaning. So if I'm making a meal and get a little wild with it, she doesn't care at all. She will gladly clean the whole kitchen after dinner. As far as the rest of the traditional wife stuff goes, I don't want that. I like a sassy woman who will tell me if I'm wrong and makes demands. She's my fiery little hillbilly. Story 14. I don't want a traditional wife. I would want a wife who knows what she wants, tells me, and then does it. If she wanted to be a traditional wife, we could probably make it happen. If she makes bank and wants me to stay at home, I wouldn't mind taking care of the house and working on random side projects. I'd be the next Norm Abram or take up painting. Story 15. I personally don't want a traditional wife at all. I want us to divide and conquer based on our individual strengths and weaknesses. I reject the notion that I have to do this, or she has to do that because of our genders. Story 16. I'm a traditional wife. I could not imagine getting up every day and putting clothes on for work. I also couldn't imagine my husband having enough time off to do the cooking. He works 6 days a week and works 10-hour shifts. Story 17. Why is it hard to understand that different people have different wants and needs? I hate cooking. My significant other does all the cooking. I love it and it works for us. Story 18. My wife is a traditional wife and I consider myself the luckiest guy. She loves being a stay-at-home mom, and she is great at it. We were always broke as my income barely covered the bills. I did my share of stuff around the house because she needed to take the kids somewhere or run errands. If you can make it work, it is very worth it. I consider it a luxury that few today can manage. Story 19. I never wanted a traditional wife. I wanted a wife who believed in mutual respect and didn't play games. There are many things that go along with a traditional wife that I really don't like. The woman cooking all of the meals. I enjoy cooking, and I also enjoy cooking a meal together with my wife. The woman doing all of the housework. Look, I moved out of my mom's house a decade before meeting my wife. I like a clean house and I don't like chores to pile up. I've also always been fiercely independent. I'm not going to rely on somebody else to clean my living space and wash my clothes. The notion that a woman shouldn't have a job outside the house. The cost of living is high and wages haven't kept up with inflation for decades. I don't earn a high salary, and I don't want to barely scrape by. Besides, if I stayed home while she worked, I'd be labeled lazy and good for nothing. The submissive wife role that's expected in traditional marriages. I don't like the idea that my wife should be submissive. It almost sounds like something that a person trying to fulfill some weird fetish would want. I want a wife who is her own person but who also understands that marriage is a team effort and that there is give and take for both sides to make things work. The belief that child rearing should be largely handled by the woman. No, I like being with my kid and doing the things a parent should do, like taking her places, helping her with her homework, cooking meals for her, and playing with her. If it's one thing that annoyed me to no end, it was that a lot of places, even in this day and age, did not have baby changing stations in the men's bathrooms. There were too many times that I had to ask a woman to keep watch at the doorway while I used the baby changing station in the women's bathroom. There's just nothing that I really find appealing about a traditional marriage. Story 20. I get the feeling that it is a combination of nostalgia and guys saying, forget it. If I'm still expected to be a traditional breadwinner and protector, I want a traditional homemaker and housewife. Story 21. To be honest, in general, I support single-income households because I would love to be a stay-at-home husband if I had the option. If I could provide that for a wife who wants that, that would be nice. Some people prefer some things, others prefer other things. I do think that a household is a full-time job, and having to split it into 2 parts on top of regular jobs just makes for 2 even more tired people. I would much rather my wife did not need to work for us to be economically comfortable. Story 22. I once dated a woman who wanted to be a traditional wife, though we never called it that. It was just her fantasy, and it seemed lovely to me. She wanted to take care of the house and eventual kids and pursue her hobbies outside of that. For myself, although I love cooking, enjoy keeping the house tidy, and love taking care of kids, this sounded like a good deal. I made enough money to support a family anyway. I don't see how you can be opposed to a stay-at-home partner as long as you have the financial means to cover the bills on your own. Story 23. It is a form of control. A homemaker has no skills outside the home, not unless they built them prior to the relationship. A homemaker relies on their provider. If they want to leave their provider for any reason, they now have to think about their financial and medical well-being. They do not have a job or skills, and America does not have universal health care, and minimum wage is not enough to make it on your own. It is even worse once kids are involved. She does not work. She does not make enough money to afford a divorce lawyer. Now her ex-husband has the kids and income, likely the house and car. She is out of luck with almost no prospects. It has always been about control. The veneer of it being a more wholesome or traditional lifestyle is one that has basically just been ingrained in all men forever. I am not saying that all men think that they control their wives this way, only that it has always been a method of control, whether the man knows it or not. It is often done in innocence. Story 24. Because I make about $500,000 a year and would rather her clean, cook, and do the household chores over hiring someone. Because I like her schedule being more flexible than my own, so she can run errands and go on vacation with me without having to worry about work. So she can raise our son without using daycare or nannies. All of this is more valuable than her bringing in a little more money. Reason enough? Story 25. I don't want a traditional wife. Maybe I've just been single too long, but as a man, I work, cook, clean, and do basically everything myself. If I took on a traditional woman, what would that add to my life? Sure, she would cook and clean for me, but I'd still be expected to do that, which is totally valid. Effectively, I'd be taking on an extra mouth to feed, or several if we have children. Personally, I want a teammate sort of partnership, not another grown adult to take care of. I'll be completely honest, I would feel resentful that she gets to live a life of basically early retirement while I work away. I feel like a cash cow. Story 26. I figure it's an internet thing. A lot of guys wouldn't want to work twice as many hours. It's also drama-prone to be the sole earner. I personally don't see the appeal in a partner that just stays home, especially when daycare has been great for my kids and offers a good learning experience that's different from home. On the other side, if I were a woman, I really wouldn't like the idea of being completely reliant on someone else. What do you do if your husband dies and you become a single mom with no job or skills? You'd have to find a traditional husband willing to take a single mom and her kids too. Story 27. Because if she focuses on house and home, I can focus more on work. I think it's far more efficient in almost any situation for two people to take the whole workload on tasks after splitting them, as opposed to splitting the workload on all the tasks. I see it as instead of having a duo team in a role-playing game both having even stat points across the board, it's better to have one person specialize in half the areas and the other person specialize in the other half. Story 28. I see a lot of this kind of narrative in conservative and alpha-type narrative circles. And while sure, everyone is allowed to want different things, just because a lot of people might want this kind of expectation, please don't make the mistake that all do. I want someone who's a partner. I certainly don't want them to stay home and look after a home and family, unless that's what they want to do, and it works for us. But I sure as hell am not setting a criterion nor even going to ask that they live their life in that kind of way to benefit me if it's remotely not something they want. Story 29. I don't exactly care for traditional gender roles, but I want to contribute by simply saying that if each partner takes care and focuses on one aspect of life that they do best, things are way more efficient and better, in my opinion. I don't even go into who of the two does what, and I think each couple should decide what works for them. Story 30. I'd say the key words are communication and consent. For example, my vision of hell is being forced to be a carpenter while eating pizza with pineapple. Traditionally, carpenters are men. Now, my girlfriend loves carpentry, and it would be massively stupid for me to discourage her, because I love cooking. We just have a win-win situation there. It is best to spend some time talking about arrangements at the beginning of a relationship. Everything becomes easier. Story 31. I just wanted to post because admittedly I'm a little confused. You said that you don't believe in traditional gender roles, and I understand and respect that. For a long list of reasons, I need to work remotely. I'm home all day, and my boyfriend is not. Not only that, even though it would bother you and you would hate it, Some men truly appreciate when the house is always clean and that there are always baked from scratch sweets here that are made to order. They don't have the same mindset as you, and when they put in a long day at work and get home, they don't want to put in another 6 hours of cleaning. They appreciate that they don't really need to lift a finger. I can bake, but I cannot cook. He cooks, so we survive eating the dinner, but the work I allow him to do ends there. He loves to cook, so he doesn't mind it. You want to come home to a mess and clean it yourself, but some men don't. Story 32. Because nothing says love like debating over who forgot to buy milk. Traditional wives or not, it's all about finding someone who can whip up a great dish and not burn the house down.